Hello and welcome to Current Issues with me, Tarun. Over the past week or so, Chinese troops have been doing incursions in Chamoli district in Uttarakhand. They are armed. The zone is demilitarized, as in they couldn't even carry arms legally as per the agreement between the two nations. Not only were they armed, but they infiltrated. Around 250 troops came into what is a demilitarized zone, and India rightly considers a part of Indian soil also. Also, what happened is there was an airspace violation. Now, time and again over the past 2 years, we've been seeing China adopting a very aggressive stance, and incursions have been happening not only in Kashmir but also other places in Arunachal Pradesh. We are going to discuss this issue in detail today with Bhaskar Balakrishnan, former diplomat. Brigadier Amrit Kapoor would also join us. He's a defense expert. But before we discuss this issue, we would like to show you a few statements made by people on this very issue.
चिंताजनक है और हमारा बॉर्डर अपेक्षाकृत शांत रहा है. हम प्रारंभ से ही कहते रहे कि यहाँ विजिलेंस आप बढ़ाइए करके. मैं समझता हूँ भारत सरकार जो आवश्यक कॉग्निजेंस लेनी है वो लेंगे और सूचना बिल्कुल सही.
हर चीज को अगर गवर्नमेंट चुप्पी साधी तो देश के लोगों में एक ऐसा एक ऐसा वातावरण पैदा होगा कि क्या देश में ये लोग ऐसे चीजें जब हो रहे हैं तो क्यों चुप बैठ रहे हैं.
एयर वायलेशन तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा अंदर नहीं आया, वो जो बॉर्डर एरिया तक उनके आया ऐसे रिपोर्ट है. और जो फेस ऑफ हुआ है वो उसमें बहुत बड़ी ऐसे घटना की बात नहीं है. ऐसे हमारे चीन और भारत के बीच में क्योंकि डिमार्केटेड नहीं है तो उसके वजह से कभी कभी वहाँ पे कुछ कहा सुना होता है.
सवाल हमें सरकार से पूछनी चाहिए. जब चीन ऐसी कर रही है तो हम अपने सारे जितने डिप्लोमेटिक स्किल्स हैं और बाकी जो स्किल है और चर्चा जारी रख के हमें इसको काबू में रखना चाहिए.
So I'm going to Bhaskar Balakrishnan ji and I'm going to ask him, what is China up to? We've been seeing a pattern when the Chinese premier visited Gujarat, India, and also met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Even then we saw incident that Xi Jinping came to India. So what is China up to?
Well, I think the Chinese are basically testing our border to see, probing our borders to see how well we have prepared our borders and how strong our border defenses are. They have been doing this in all the three sectors, the Ladakh sector, and now of course in the central sector and in the eastern sector. So while the present incursion, according to the defense minister, is a transgression rather than an incursion, it needs to be taken quite seriously. And in fact, there is a report which Ambassador Shyam Saran, who was tasked with reviewing the whole border, submitted to the Prime Minister on strengthening our borders. Those kind of recommendations need to be implemented. We need to strengthen our border, have a very robust system, have better air assets position so that we can react quickly and swiftly. Certain things are happening. We have announced the stationing of 100 tanks in Ladakh near the border. We hear that 73 new roads are being built on the border areas. So apparently the government is moving quietly to strengthen our border infrastructure, but I think much more needs to be done. And certainly the Chinese, if they see that we are serious about strengthening our border infrastructure, then perhaps the temptation to probe us will become less.
Okay, I'll go to Brigadier Amrit Kapoor ji and would like to ask him, what would be your opening comment when you see something like China first violating the line of control in a way, though it's not demarcated, coming into India, which is with arms and ammunition, 250 troops, then violating airspace also. How do you look at this?
First of all, every time we say the Chinese have done incursion, now like Defense Minister is saying is transgression.
Yes.
Again, playing with the words.
Yes.
But we should also see the Chinese media, what are Indian forces doing. Now, what has happened this time is that our people have gone there. There is a grazing ground. The border in Uttarakhand is 375 kilometers with
Yes.
Chinese, and there is a grazing ground which is about 80 kilometers,
Okay.
which are the meadows, and where the shepherd, they go there from both sides, and they live happily. Like sir has just brought out that in that demilitarized zones, weapons are not allowed, but this time they brought the weapons. So we have to see, we have to take all these things with a pinch of salt. Now we have been doing a lot of things in developing our forward posture. Earlier we were only reacting. Now at number of places we are also proactive, and with the result that the Chinese are also worried, and they are trying to sort of gauge or assess what is our preparation, like sir brought out, and so these are the incursions or these violations they keep doing, and we are not told. As a matter of fact, like one of the politicians, he mentioned that we should have, in case we have transparencies in these issues, the things will be better, and unnecessary rumor mongering will not be there. Now I find that every time government is trying to say the same word, same statement I've been hearing for the last 2 years, that there is no change. That is a disputed area. It is it is not marketed. Yes, we also know that it is a line of actual control, and there is no. But at the same time, both these sides know where we are sitting.
Yes.
And both these sides, we have got our area of influence. I would like to share with you. I have served in all these areas, and you will find that there are certain things, certain areas where you can't even reach. So the border is demarcated from one height to another height, and in between it passes through a nala, and it passes through certain ridge lines. So those physically cannot be manned. With the result, all these incursions, or now new term has been injected, transgression. So these things are taking place. Like they are doing, I am sure our patrols must also be doing such patrolling there. So at times, this is all, there is a planned thing. It is not that it is off the cuff or just for the accident is by accident. So they are doing it in all the 3 sectors in rotation. In case you see the pattern, they will start with Ladakh, and then they will come to now like here in last 1 month there have been 3 incursions, and also a helicopter violation, and then in the month of June there was also in Arunachal. So these things will continue. And what sir has also brought out, that we have to keep consolidating our position on the borders. We have to equip ourselves. We have to build infrastructure right up to the borders. Earlier the concept was, in case we build infrastructure, the Chinese are going to use it to come down to the plains. I think we were living in fool's paradise at that time, and now the things are changing, and we have to go ahead. Like he has mentioned that very large number of roads are under construction, but I still feel that we are very, very, very slow.
Okay, we are very slow. I take your point. I am going to Bhaskar Balakrishnan ji at this moment. Sir, if you could tell me, the year was 2014. President Xi Jinping was talking trade in India. Chinese and Indian troops at the very same moment faced off each other in Ladakh. Now, there are other countries in the world who also have disputes among themselves, and it is seen that such transgressions are not taken very lightly. Do you think India adopts a posture where it responds, but the response is always to pacify rather than getting into a passive aggressive mode? You see a reason for that kind of response, or do you think China is now got aggressive because of the kind of things that are being talked about, whether it is a nuclear suppliers group issue, where it was opposed to India's stand, and then, so basically, is it trying to get aggressive with India?
Well, I think there is public, at least in the eyes of the public, this is the impression. Perception is that China is creating problems across many issues. For example, on the border problem,
Yes.
then the NSG, they are now using their money power in Sri Lanka and countries around. They are getting port facilities. They are building up their capability in the Indian Ocean. So there is a sense that the Chinese are, are becoming tough with India.
Yes.
But at the same time, a lot of this activity between countries is conducted outside the media. For
Yes.
example, if there is a border issue, then that is handled at an official level. It is not handled through the media, and I'm sure there is a strong protest was given at the time of the visit of the Chinese leader to India when there was this incident on the border. There was a sharp reaction to that, and I think the Chinese did try to say that, look, this was a something which should not have happened. So a lot of things are happening quietly outside the public eye. There is, of course, the attempt that we shouldn't be pushed into overreacting on this. We should have a measured, firm and robust response, and a solid response which lasts, not an immediate thing for just 1 day or 2 days.
Yes.
So here is where building up a strong border infrastructure is very important. The more we do and strengthen our border infrastructure, the more the Chinese will be discouraged.
Taking a cue from you, I'll go to Amrit Kapoor ji. So, Brigadier Amrit Kapoor ji, if you could explain to the viewers also, what we are increasingly seeing that the Chinese have a pattern of what they call a posture when in which they will come and sit. They'll come 100 meters forward, they'll sit on that portion of soil. So, there would be a temple there that would be demolished, as have happened in the border areas in northeast, where local tribals or local people have been saying that they slowly, they first start with incursions, they sit at that place, after some days they again come in some more. So I mean, this has been a pattern since the 1960s, if I am not wrong. How do you look at this? Is this a very carefully planned strategy wherein you let time pass and you sit on a portion of land, however little it may be, which they have maybe transgressed just very recently? Because there have been incidents where they have taken positions at a higher altitude by actually occupying ground that was ideally either demilitarized or what Indians regarded as their soil on the line of actual control. How do you look at this?
You see, firstly, the Chinese, whenever they are doing all these things, they have got a plan in their mind, and it is not just for the heck of it. And they want to, first thing is, they want to keep this issue alive and pressurize India on a number of things. They have got now interest, a lot of investment has been done in India, and they have to protect their interests. So they want to keep us on defensive. They have always been proactive, and we have always been reacting.
Yes.
And although, like Sir brought out, that our reaction should not be unnecessary, which is not called for, but at the same time, we got to our responses. They got to be duly calibrated, and so that it pinches them also. We should also be doing such like things. So you find that the Chinese have a pattern always in their whatever they are doing, and what you brought out is inching forward, that concept, that they keep following, that they will first send their patrols there,
yes.
Then the second time they will go and establish certain tents, and third time they will go and make some infrastructure, fourth time they will have some helicopter sorties flying over them. So they are trying to establish that in case we don't react sufficiently,
yes.
They are trying to establish that we have more land to this area than India.
Okay.
So we have to counter those things, and wherever such thing is happening, and there has to be a reaction. And in case we keep sitting, and I'm sure the things must have been done there. I mean, we have got very professional ITBP and other forces which are manning these. In NIFA, in Arunachal it is army, and in the central sector is ITBP, and in Ladakh is again army, and a mix of BSF and ITBP. So these are all very professional the forces there who are sitting there, and they must be managing. But at the same time, we have not been proactive in these areas. Like that has been our Indian actually policy. That every time we wait for something to happen and then we react.
Okay.
And here also, in case we also do certain things and put them also on the defensive, then there, even if they have a design in this, they have a plan in this, that will not materialize.
Okay. I'm going across to Bhaskar Balakrishnan ji and want to ask him this. What we've been seeing is a pattern that starts from the early 60s. In the 1960s, we saw China coming in Aksai Chin, eventually occupying 32,000 square kilometers of what India considers is its land, and even rightfully so today says is its territory. So what they have done, in Indians didn't send troops there at that time, they occupied. Now we see a pattern, and our response is like a report which you mentioned was made by Sham Saran. That report went missing. We still can't find that report. Do you see that we have neglected this issue for far too long, sending a very wrong impression to the Chinese?
Yeah, I think we have been negligent in managing our borders. Firstly, of course, the border with China, which needs a very, very robust infrastructure, and it's a very challenging environment. High altitude in the Ladakh sector, and then in the eastern sector, of course, different type of terrain. But of course, you must remember that these borders are much closer to our heartland. For the Chinese, these borders are much further from their heartland.
Yes.
Despite that, they have built up the infrastructure. So, of course, at a tremendous cost to them. They have now established a new command structure in Tibet. So we have to do, we have to match this thing on the border with China. At the same time, we also have a border with Pakistan. So again, that border also has to be made very robust and with proper infrastructure. We have borders with other countries which are in some cases quite porous, and a lot of illegal activities are taking place. These things also have to be taken care of. So we have to, not only the border with China, but our borders with Pakistan and other countries have to be properly managed.
Sir, since you said this, I would like to know from you one thing. In diplomatic parlance, do you think it is a cause for alarm when POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, wherein which elections took place recently, which were rigged? This happened last week. From there, China is being allowed full and free access to build a highway that to the port in Pakistan, the Gwadar port. So we are seeing Pakistan is cooperating with China to build a highway there. We are being encircled also in the South China Sea, where they are having a very aggressive poacher. Northeast is well known, Kashmir is now well known, Uttarakhand is happening. Don't you think that China is as good as somebody who is an enemy? So you have a knife with, when you're fully clothed, you're actually hiding a knife and you're actually trying to attack India. Don't you think this is a cause for alarm? Or do you think we can have this passive posture even in the face of such aggression by China time and again?
Well, yes, I think we are facing a strategic kind of alliance between China and Pakistan, which is against us. And this is obvious in many areas. The Chinese are working with Pakistan to put up this road and road communication. They are building up Gwadar port.
Yes.
They are now having a joint activities in POK, things which from our point of view are totally illegal, because that territory belongs to us.
Yes.
And they are changing the status of this territory in violation of the UN resolution.
Yes.
So we have to face the fact that there is a kind of strategic alliance working against us. That is why we now see signs that our government has decided to work more closely with the United States and in the South China Sea with countries like Japan, Australia and others. And the Chinese are taking note of that as well.
Okay.
So this is a game which will have to be played over a long term.
Okay.
But the fundamental thing is that we need to have our defense preparedness at the highest level and give it the adequate priority, and not only just hardware, even the software of defense.
Yes.
The way our defense posture is managed, the way we integrate our police as well as the defense, all these things have to be put in order.
But as many, I'll go to Brigadier Amrit Kapoorji at this point and want to ask him whether China has a strategy, as many defense experts and also foreign affairs experts have a point that what is ours, but what is yours is negotiable. And because it adopts this strategy, it stands very firm and protests hard if anybody tries to do any incursion, which I don't think anybody has done, but they say they adopt very strong stand. But your area is negotiable and I can do incursions. Do you think this is the strategy that China adopts?
China's strategies have always been my way or highway.
Yes.
There is no doubt about it. And they have got massive military power behind that. Like as I mentioned, that they have militarized the Tibetan plateau and right up to our borders, and they are building up nuclear bases there. They are building up railway lines. They are building up infrastructure, and so that is also gives them the capability of building up in very short time although these days, I mean, physical attacking may not be possible, but at the same time, they keep threatening us. But at the same time, what you are trying to say is not that type of reaction from our side or a proactive stance from our side is always lacking, not only with China, even with Pakistan and even with the other neighboring countries. I mean, we have, that is our national, you can say, strength also, and it's a policy also, our being a very largest democracy in the world.
Yes.
And so these are some of our strengths, some of them, those strengths, they become weaknesses also. So those are some certain restrictions on us, that we don't have hegemonistic designs.
Yes.
We don't have expansionist policies.
Yes.
And we don't have any, we want to live in peace here in our region, and we don't want to foment trouble in other countries' territories like the others. There is a state instrument to foment trouble in other countries. Like recently again we have caught one of the terrorists alive in Kashmir. And such like thing, their interference there, you will never find very little. Yes, our also RAW and other agencies would be doing their job, but not that I would say in an aggressive manner. So from our side, yes, I agree with you that that type of reaction is there and not action is there from our side.
Okay.
And we should be more aggressive and active in these fields, and we at least nothing else, we should strengthen our armed forces.
Yes.
We should posture them in a way that it puts pressure on them, and so that posturing has also to be done, and we have to equip our armed forces, which require lot needs to be done. Our priorities at the national level, they need to be changed, and we got to build up our infrastructures right up to the international borders or the line of control or the LIC, wherever it is, because that increases the mobility and that helps you in deployment of your forces. So we have also to do a lot. A lot is being done, but at the same time, certainly these issues are put in the back burner, and we for the time being, we just forget armed forces, and whenever there is some incursion or intrusion, or there is some local sort of a conflict or something, then only these things they come, and suddenly the statements are made that we must do this, we must do that, and then again it is put in the cold storage. So I like that such issues must be dealt with on top priority at the national level, and there should not be any let up. Anything else can wait. I want to just bring out one aspect here, that even to equip armed forces is not that simple. It is an expensive proposition, number one. And the next thing is that to induct any armament or any arm into the armed forces, the gestation period is anything from 10 to 15 years.
Yes.
So you cannot say today just sort of suspend the process, and in the bargain then again you start afresh, de novo, and with the result that you lose again those 10 years of work.
Bhaskar Balakrishnan ji, you are pointing out that the recent spate of cancellations and the blacklistings that we have done with many defense companies, which have anyways cost us because we had to cancel that. But I get your larger point that you're doing, that the acquisition is a laborious and a time-taking process, and you can't go back to square one every time. I'm going to Bhaskar Balakrishnan ji. As somebody who's served in the diplomacy as part of the diplomatic establishment for over 3 decades, could you tell us that India has been refraining from making strong statements against China, and this has been a stated policy where we say all is well. We would never make strong statements like China does. Do you think this is a part of India's policy, or would you like India to get more aggressive when it is stating its stance at international forums?
Well, I think we have been reasonably robust in responding to, in protecting our interests as far as China is concerned in the appropriate international forums. It is not that we should speak to the media about it, but in the right forum, in the right language, we have been responding and defending our interests. And of course, that has been heard by the Chinese. The message has gone home to the Chinese.
Yes.
You see, the problem now with the border is, now it has been mentioned that the border is not demarcated.
Yes.
Now things are a lot different now than 20 years ago. For example, the Chinese border has been demarcated with Vietnam.
Yes.
They have used the new technology like GPS to demarcate the border.
Yes.
So where there is a political will on the part of China to go ahead with demarcating the border, certainly there is technology available.
Which means
to do it.
you are also pointing, Balkrishnanji, that there is no intention on part of China to do it. They would want to maintain
Yes,
the
exactly. So it appears that there is a kind of, the political will or the political directive is missing.
Yes.
That we have to settle the problem using all technical means. Otherwise,
Yes.
what is the problem?
Yes.
Wherever you can, you use GPS to demarcate the border. Where you can't use it, well, then you sit down and talk. But
Yes.
certainly, you can't say that 100% of the border can't be demarcated.
Yes.
So that would not be correct. Technology is available.
Okay.
It's been used with the border with
Okay.
Vietnam. So there is a precedent for it, and Vietnam is a country with whom the Chinese have had a conflict.
Okay.
Vietnam responded very robustly.
I'll take a larger point. I'll speak to Brigadier Amrit Kapoorji and ask him. I'll mention two incidents to you. One in which there was a question of visa being given to somebody who speaks of free Tibet, and India, after almost giving him a visa, denied him a visa. Second, I'm taking you to the UPA tenure when the Olympic torch was to be brought to India, and we actually thrashed and beat up, our police beat up Tibetan protesters, and we had a contingent of police running into thousands to protect that torch, that no protesters should touch that torch and it should pass safely through India. Do you think this kind of a fear, I mean, does India display a fear? Because what happens is, what would have happened if we would have given visa to people who speak of free Tibet? I mean, why should we shy away from such postures? Do you think India then looks like a soft state when it takes such kind of postures?
You see, India has been always refraining, I would say, from reacting anything when China says anything about Tibetans in our country, and we have given them refuge. They have got a government operating from here in Dharamsala.
Yes.
And so it is very clear. So we should be open in our stance that we support their interest, I mean whatever they are asking for,
yes,
independent Tibet. But at the same time, we have already conceded to China that this is an integral part of China, which was done under whatever conditions.
So, Amit Kapoorji, what would be your closing comment for today's discussion?
Now, I would say that China has got a plan in every such action. They have got a calibrated response, and we should also be acting in a manner that not all the time we are reacting, but we should also be proactive. And one more line is that we have to consolidate our infrastructure and defenses.
Consolidating
all,
your infrastructure
all along
and be proactive. I'm taking that as your closing comment. I'm going to Bhaskar Balkrishnanji. What would be your closing comment and advice for today's discussion?
I agree with Brigadier. We should strengthen our border infrastructure, make it more robust, strengthen our defense preparedness, and then of course we use all our cards against China. For example, as far as Tibet is concerned,
yes, we have never used them.
As far as Taiwan is concerned, why should we not do more with Taiwan?
Yes.
Although of course Taiwan has the same position as China on the border issue.
Yes.
With Tibet, you mentioned recently a Lama was allegedly poisoned by the Chinese in jail.
Yes.
And the Lama's niece has just arrived in Dharamshala. Perhaps
Yes.
you missed that story. You
Yes.
should look at it.
Yes.
And she has given a very horrifying picture of what happened to her uncle.
Yes. So taking that point, India should necessarily adopt a more aggressive posture with China is what is being appointed, as well as strengthen its border infrastructure. We'll continue to track the India-China issue for you on News World India and continue to take it up. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate today. Thank you.